Fall has come and gone, but it's never too late to dive into the season's best budget-friendly comic picks. Welcome to the top 10 comics on a $50 budget for the fall of 2024. Whether you're shopping for yourself or a fellow comic fan, this list is packed with affordable gems that won't break the bank. So grab a cozy drink, maybe a leftover holiday treat, and settle in as we uncover the best budget comics from the season gone by. Let's jump in. Kicking off the list in the number 10 spot is a classic modern Wonder Woman cover that wasn't drawn by Adam Hughes. The number 10 book is Wonder Woman number 72. Cover dated March 1993, we find what is arguably the most recognizable cover from artist Brian Boland's run on the title. While Boland may be best remembered for his team-up with Alan Moore for the one-shot Batman the Killing Joke, his work during his time on the Wonder Woman title comes in at a close second. Unfortunately, Boland only had cover duty here, and the interior story was drawn by Lee Moder with inks from semi-local to me, Andy Parks, and it was written by William Messner Loebs. The story is your fairly typical comic book origin retelling, but this time out there's a bit of retconning going on, as the origin story includes some new details. Recent sales for higher grade raw copies have been in the neighborhood of $40 to $50 as of late, which isn't too bad for a modern DC issue that doesn't include a first appearance. Well, I had to call an audible here. Between the time I first put this list together and when I went to write and record it, the original number 9 book has achieved liftoff, and it's now a solid $150 book. With that in mind, we're checking down from that character's first appearance to their first solo issue with It's Jeff number 1, featuring everyone's newly discovered favorite land shark, Jeff. Before Rivals, Jeff the Land Shark was just another random Marvel character created in the most recent 5 years. And if I'm being completely honest, I had no idea this guy even existed. But Jeff is currently living his best life as the current flavor of the week in the comic hobby. Jeff first appeared in the March 2019 issue of West Coast Avengers number 7 from writer Kelly Thompson and artist Danielle De Niccuolo. I'm going to give them credit as being the co-creators of Jeff, who was introduced as a pet for Gwenpool. Like West Coast Avengers 7, It's Jeff number 1 is having a really good run of it in recent weeks and is starting to push up against the top of our $50 budget. So while I don't know that this book is going to be able to hold on to these price gains over the long term, in fact, I would likely suggest that it won't be able to. But if this is a book you're interested in picking up in the short term, you might not want to delay on picking up a copy. Though, if patience is something you are capable of, it's not my strong point, I'll be honest. Put this one on the back burner, wait for it to flame out, and pick up a copy when the market finds something new to obsess over. Moving on down the list, let's see what we can dig up in the number 8 spot with Tomb Raider number 45. While this is far from Lara Croft's first comic book appearance, which Tomb Raider Witchblade number 1 has the honor of being, Tomb Raider number 45 is currently at the top of the list for the character's most valuable comic book appearance, courtesy of its steamy Adam Hughes cover. Keeping up with the resurgence of 90s nostalgia, Netflix released a Tomb Raider animated series back in October, and the series was quickly picked up for a second season, which is pretty solid for a character that is closing in on their 30th anniversary coming up in 2026. Tomb Raider 45 is cover dated October 2004 with a creative team consisting of writer James Bonney and artist Mike Cho for the story titled Inner Demons. Most recent sales have come in the neighborhood of $45 to $50 with a few outliers both above and below for high-grade raw copies. As previously mentioned, this one gets a boost on the back of the Adam Hughes cover, but beyond that, it also comes from the tail end of the run, all of which feature AH exclamation point covers. While the other covers primarily feature Laura in some sort of an action scene, it's pretty apparent why Tomb Raider 45 rises to the top. It's the bottom that does it. A whole lot of well-drawn bottom. We really are simple creatures who are happy to prove over and over and over again that sex sells and business is good. For the number 7 book, we're going all the way back to November 1971's Daredevil number 81. Coming from the month where all or most Marvel comics were released as double-sized 52-page issues, which were rocking a 25-cent price tag, mostly just so that readers might not notice that the still 15 cents graphic from the October 1971 issues was nowhere to be found when December's books rolled out with a new price tag of 20 cents, Daredevil was in a pretty tough spot. The character's popularity had never been that great, but by the time 1971 rolled around, things had slowly deteriorated to the point that it was announced that Daredevil and Iron Man would be combined into a single series. However, there was a soon-to-be hot new writer standing in the breach, and he had a plan to save Daredevil's solo series. Check it out. His plan was, put a chick in it.
You serious?
While that phrase is a bit contentious today, in 1971, Jerry Conway's fanboy love for the Black Widow not only gave Natasha Romanoff's alter ego a regular and soon-to-be co-headlining home, the move also helped revitalize interest in the Daredevil series, helping to keep it afloat for most of the rest of the decade. DD81 came with a Gil Kane cover, the story from a young Jerry Conway, and interior art from Daredevil's first long-term legendary artist, Gene Colan, who would pencil nearly every issue of Daredevil from issue 20 to 100, with the exception of just 3 issues. With the back issue market in the shape it's currently in, sales are all over the place. What I can say is that for $50, you can get a really nice copy of this one for your collection. It might be a near mint minus, it might be a VF, kind of depending on the day, but $50 and Daredevil 81 can make some magic happen. Back in 1999, the world was just a better place. Reality TV hadn't killed off sitcoms. Pop-punk tunes were about to hit their peak. You were openly encouraged to party like it was 1999 because the impending doom of Y2K demanded it. Also, DC had this little side project called Vertigo that put out some of the best comics of the modern era, such as our number 6 book, 100 Bullets Number 1. Cover dated August 1999, 100 Bullets is a noir case study of topics such as morality, justice, free will, and the consequences of your own actions. It goes like this. You've been wronged by somebody. Agent Graves shows up and offers you an opportunity to have your revenge. An untraceable pew-pew, 100 bang-bangs, and unimpeachable evidence of who did you wrong. What do you do? How does the weight of your choice affect you? That is 100 Bullets. 10 years and 100 issues of it, along with a few overarching conspiracies and shady organizations and such. Written by Brian Azzarello, the interior art from Eduardo Risa, and some fantastic cover work from Dave Johnson, 100 Bullets has been on my recommended reading shortlist since back in my early days working at my LCS. The best part about collecting 100 Bullets today is that we're more than 15 years removed from the final issue, which means that the new has pretty well worn off and it's dang affordable right now. Most recent sales for high-grade copies of issue 1 have been between $30 and $40, but somebody back in mid-November managed to nab high-grade copies of the entire run for just $117 plus shipping. Insert the Real Men of Genius jingle here. Kicking off the top half of the list, we have a book that my spreadsheet says I haven't talked about recently, but I'm still pretty sure I have. But just to make sure that it's official, let's talk about Uncanny X-Men 239. Cover dated December 1988, Uncanny 239 has its fair share of notable happenings to discuss. First and foremost, this is the first cover appearance of Mr. Sinister, who is also making his second overall full appearance. Next up, we have Madeline Pryor, both being referred to as the Goblin Queen and making a cover appearance as the same for the first time. Under the cover, we find a story called Vanities that is a prologue of the Inferno story arc. Legendary X-Men writer Chris Claremont wrote the story with then artist Mark Silvestri, who turned in both cover and interior pencils. Sinister played a major role in last year's X-Men 97 and is on everybody's shortlist to be the X-Men's big bad right out of the gate when they formally join the MCU, in lieu of Magneto, who, much like the Green Goblin, has been way overutilized under previous ownership. Looking at recent sales, any copy of this book, VF or under, can be had for $20 or less. Copies in near mint grade range will run you from between $25 and $40 in most cases, with a few outliers pushing above $40 and a few even below $25. In the mid-2010s, Marvel went all in on a new type of variant cover, the action figure variant. Having just reacquired the Star Wars franchise, and then also having their own Marvel Legends toy line to leverage, this was a potential cash cow for the publisher, who has honestly never met a variant type it wasn't willing to fully exploit. Other publishers were also quick to jump on the bandwagon as well, and soon thereafter you couldn't really tell what kind of a hobby shop you were in with just a quick glance. Well, you may not realize it, but the concept of the action figure variant or the action figure cover originated in one of my favorite indie titles of the 90s in our number 4 book, Scud, the Disposable Assassin, number 9. Cover dated October 1995, Scud was one of the weirdest indie titles that broke through long enough to enjoy its 15 minutes of fame. Publisher Fireman Press put out a few other titles, but the fairly short-lived Scud, with only a 20-issue run, was their most successful title by far. The story, titled Village of the Damned, The Big Red One Part 4, was the final chapter of the Big Red One story arc, written by Dan Harbin and Rob Schrab, along with Schrab cover and interior art, which was a trendsetter, just 20 years before the trend actually caught on. Being that it's a somewhat obscure line, copies of this issue are somewhat difficult to track down on occasion. For example, there are only 2 comps currently reporting on eBay, both of which are mid-grade copies. If this is an issue that interests you, either due to its underappreciated general awesomeness, or the fact that it is indeed the first ever action figure comic book variant or cover, and should be appreciated as such, if you max out our $50 budget, you should be able to bring home a really nice copy. Swinging into the number 3 spot, we find one of my favorite issues from Spider-Man's Black Costume story arc in Amazing Spider-Man 258. It's been a while since I've talked about this book, so I thought it was time to bring it back up. Cover dated November 1984, ASM 258 not only features a great Ron Frenz cover depicting Spidey's classic red and blues fighting the new black costume for Peter Parker, but the title of the story, The Sinister Secret of Spider-Man's New Costume, lets you know you're in for quite a ride. After debuting in Amazing Spider-Man 252, the black costume had caused a lot of noise in the comic book world, but the revelation that the suit was alive was something that was not on most people's bingo cards. Also happening in this issue, we get the debut of one of the greatest alternative costumes in all of Marvel Comics when Spidey dons his bombastic Bagman outfit for the very first time. Made up of a Fantastic Four jumpsuit and the finest brown paper bag available at the Baxter Building, I'm always down for an appearance of this get-up, with the variant cover of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man from back during the other arc being my favorite. On the creative side, Tom DeFalco received the writing credit for the issue, while cover artist Ron Frenz pulled double duty by completing the interior pencils as well. Recent sales for higher-end raw copies have been averaging in the $30 to $35 range, making this a fun, important, and affordable black costume book to add to your collection. In the runner-up spot, we find the debut collaboration between a legendary character and a creator destined to achieve iconic status largely through their work with this very character. The number 2 book is DC Special Series number 21, where a young Frank Miller and the Batman first cross paths. Cover dated spring 1980, even though it was actually on the stands prior to Christmas 1979, DC Special Series 21 is the technical name of the book, but you're going to have to crack the cover open to find that info, as the title it carries on the cover is DC Superstar Holiday Special. This bulky 68-page issue included 5 holiday stories, including everyone from Batman, Jonah Hex, Superboy and the Legion, to the DC Bronze Age horror hosts like Cain, Abel, the Three Witches, Mildred, Mordred, and Cynthia, and finally Destiny. But we're here to talk about the Batman story, which was titled Wanted, Santa Claus, Dead or Alive. Written by DC master Denny O'Neil, a young up-and-comer named Frank Miller provided the pencils for the 10-page story that played out a bit like the plot of Home Alone 2, with Batman foiling a mob plot to take off with the cash from a department store following a busy Christmas Eve of sales. All of this and more can be found just underneath the Jose Luis Garcia Lopez cover. 45 years later, we're all well aware of the impact Frank Miller would have on Batman through such classics as the Year One arc and the Dark Knight miniseries. But anyone who picked up this issue back in the day truly got in on the ground floor. Recent sales have been a little all over the place, again, with some really crazy fixed sales prices, but generally speaking, you should be able to pick up a nice higher grade copy of DC Special Series 21 for between $40 and $50, especially now that the holiday season is winding down. Topping off the list of the top 10 comics on a $50 budget for the fall of 2024 is a book whose cover was lifted straight from the page to the screen in the recent Captain America Brave New World trailer. Let's talk about Captain America 230. Cover dated February 1979, Cap 230 is a cover-driven book. The Rob Wilson cover depicts Hulk and Captain America in a bit of a squabble, with Cap blocking a blistering blow from the Green Goliath with his shield, a moment that was lifted for the Brave New World trailer, and now some subsequent movie posters, where we see Sam Wilson's Captain America confront Thunderbolt Ross's Red Hulk. The 17-page story, titled Assault on Alcatraz, was written by Roger McKenzie and Roger Stern, henceforth to be known as The Rogers, while spectacular Spider-Man maestro Sal Buscema did the pencil breakdowns for Don Perlin, who provided the cover art. The story would continue in Incredible Hulk 232, but I don't think most of us are too concerned about that, because the cover to Hulk 232 isn't anywhere close to being as star-spangled stimulating as the cover here on Captain America 230. Recent sales have definitely caught a post-trailer bump in both value and volume of sales. Like a lot of books we've talked about recently, recent sales prices are spread out all over the place, with some copies going for oddly cheap and others going for financially irresponsible prices. However, our $50 budget will put you in the position to grab a pretty nice copy of this one. It might cost you $25, or it might cost you every bit of the $50. It's hard to tell right now. One thing is for sure though, I wouldn't get in a hurry on this one either. It's an iconic cover that is currently in the middle of its 15 minutes of fame, much in the way that Avengers 223 was back when the MCU's Civil War brought that classic cover moment to life. I suspect Cap 230 will follow a similar trajectory as Avengers 223, so if you don't find a copy at the right price at the right time, you might be better off to wait this one out and pick it up in the fall-off period after the release of Brave New World. That wraps up our top 10 comics on a $50 budget for the fall of 2024. Hopefully, this list gave you some inspiration for building your collection without breaking the bank. Whether you're snagging a gift or treating yourself, there's something here for every budget. And don't go far, our next video in the series, Top 10 Comics on a $20 Budget, is coming soon. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting for those budget-friendly comic book treasures. Collect responsibly. I'll see you in the next video.